Part 4.23 The Women and Nisa. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Sufi Essence. The sanctity of peace and the dangers of worldly greed. Having explored the grave consequences of intentional killing, we now turn our attention to a verse of profound ethical and spiritual significance. This verse, number 94 of Surah An-Nisa, serves as a powerful spiritual and legal safeguard, teaching us the paramount importance of exercising caution, compassion, and sound judgment in times of conflict. It is a divine injunction that prohibits the unjust taking of a human life, especially under the corrupting influence of worldly greed. This verse is not merely a historical or military command. It is a timeless teaching that warns believers against allowing the temptations of material gain to cloud their spiritual clarity and lead them to commit a grave transgression. It establishes a fundamental principle of Islamic ethics: the sanctity of a human life and the need to prioritize spiritual integrity over temporary worldly acquisitions. The revelation of this verse was a transformative moment, providing a clear ethical framework that prevents the erosion of moral principles in the face of temptation. It distinguishes the conduct of a believer from that of those who are driven by avarice, ensuring that the community remains anchored in divine justice and mercy. O believers, when you go forth in the way of Allah, be clear-sighted, and do not say to the one who offers you peace, "You are not a believer," in order to gain a portion of the life of the world. With Allah are great spoils. You were in a similar state before, but Allah showed you favor. Therefore, be clear-sighted. Indeed, Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. Kanzul Iman Quran, The Women, 4-94. Context of revelation. This verse was revealed to address a specific, sensitive, and deeply troubling incident that occurred in the early Muslim community. It came at a time when the legal and ethical framework of the nascent community was being established, and it provided a clear and unequivocal ruling on how to deal with a person who offers a sign of peace. The incident involved the companions Usama ibn Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him, and a man who, during a military encounter, declared that there is no God but Allah. Despite this declaration, the companions killed him, believing his statement to be a desperate plea to save his life, rather than a sincere conversion. The news of this act deeply distressed the Prophet, peace be upon him. He rebuked Usama ibn Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him, for his act of judgment, repeatedly asking him, "Did you look into his heart?" The revelation of this verse was a direct divine response to the incident, providing a profound ethical framework that prohibits the believers from judging the inner state of others. It teaches a fundamental principle: the external declaration of faith is sufficient, and one's inner state is for Allah alone to judge. This context is crucial, as it shows the immediate need for a divine law to guide believers and to prevent them from allowing suspicion and greed to lead to the shedding of innocent blood. It solidified the principle that peace must be sought and accepted, and that the declaration of faith provides immediate protection. Explanation. This verse is a powerful spiritual teaching that clarifies the limits of human judgment and the reality of divine justice. The phrase, "O believers, when you go forth in the way of Allah, be clear-sighted," is a direct and powerful spiritual command. The call to be clear-sighted implies a need for a spiritual and intellectual vigilance that transcends the heat of the moment. It is a profound statement that the purpose of faith is to provide clarity and to distinguish between what is permissible and what is not. Even in the most challenging of circumstances, this is a spiritual teaching that tells us that a person's spiritual state is a reflection of their willingness to exercise sound judgment and to act with justice and integrity. The verse then adds the divine prohibition: "And do not say to the one who offers you peace, 'You are not a believer,' in order to gain a portion of the life of the world." This is the core of the verse's teaching. It is a direct condemnation of judging another's faith, especially when that judgment is tainted by a desire for worldly gain. The phrase, "a portion of the life of the world," refers to the spoils of war, which could include possessions, land, or other material goods. This teaching is a powerful warning against allowing greed to corrupt one's moral compass. It teaches that the value of a human soul and the sanctity of peace are infinitely greater than any temporary worldly possession. The divine law here establishes a clear principle: one's intention is paramount, and if the motive for an act of aggression is material gain, it is a grave transgression. The divine wisdom continues with a powerful counterpoint: with Allah are great spoils. This is a spiritual redirection, a reminder that the true treasures are not to be found in the fleeting world but with the eternal Lord. This phrase teaches believers to seek the spiritual rewards that are with Allah, which are far greater, more enduring, and more meaningful than any worldly acquisition. It is a call to a higher form of spiritual consciousness, one that is not driven by temporal desires, but by an eternal hope. The verse then adds a profound reminder of spiritual humility. You were in a similar state before. Allah showed you favor. Therefore, be clear-sighted. This is a powerful rhetorical and spiritual teaching. It reminds the believers of their own past, when they were not believers and were in a state of polytheism and spiritual ignorance. The fact that Allah, in His immense mercy, showed them favor by guiding them to Islam should instill in them a sense of gratitude and humility. This remembrance should serve as a powerful motivation to show that same mercy and compassion to others. The favor shown to them demands a similar fairness and justice toward all of humanity. The verse concludes with a powerful statement of divine accountability. Indeed, Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. This phrase serves as a final and powerful warning, reminding us that there is no hiding one's true intentions from Allah. Our actions, our thoughts, and the hidden desires of our hearts are all known to Him. This is a spiritual teaching that ensures we act with a pure and sincere intention, knowing that we are always in the presence of the all-knowing and the all-seeing. Sufi perspective. From a Sufi perspective, this verse is a lesson in the profound dangers of the ego and its cunning ability to corrupt one's intentions. The Sufi understands that the act of judging another's faith, especially in pursuit of material gain, is a manifestation of the ultimate arrogance of the ego. The ego, in its most corrupted state, desires to find a pretext to justify its avarice. And in this case, it found a pretense in judging a person's inner state. The spiritual struggle for the Sufi is one of continuous purification of the heart from the diseases of greed, suspicion, and pride. The verse serves as a powerful reminder of what happens when this purification is neglected. The external act of killing is a symptom of a deeper spiritual illness. Prophet's peace be upon him, words to Yusuma, may Allah be pleased with him. Did you look into his heart? It's the core of the Sufi teaching. The Sufi knows that the heart is a sacred space, and only Allah has the right to look into it. The Sufi path is one of self-purification and self-observation, not of judging the faith of others. The external declaration of faith is sufficient for the Sufi, as the ultimate reality of a person's soul is for Allah alone to judge. The verse also highlights the Sufi understanding of true wealth. The phrase "great spoils with Allah" is central to the Sufi perspective. The Sufi sees the entire material world as a transient illusion and seeks only the spiritual spoils that are with Allah. The verse warns against trading the infinite spiritual treasures of divine nearness for the temporary trinkets of the worldly life. The Zia o-Quran interpretation. The scholarly commentary in Zia o-Quran by Pir Muhammad Karim Shah al-Azhari sheds light on the immense spiritual and legal significance of this verse. He explains that this verse serves as a profound warning to the community of believers against allowing their spiritual values to be eroded by worldly desires. He notes that the verse provides a clear and uncompromising legal principle. A declaration of faith is sufficient for a person to be given safety and protection. Pir Muhammad Karim Shah al-Azhari highlights the profound psychological wisdom of the verse, explaining that it perfectly captures the state of a person whose faith is superficial and whose allegiance is to their own worldly well-being. He argues that the verse introduces a humane and just system that prioritizes human life and prohibits a dangerous form of vigilantism. God. The commentary posits that Allah, in His perfect wisdom, established a law so clear that it would force the community to recognize that the life of a human being is beyond price, and that the path to true spiritual wealth lies in justice and mercy, not in greed and suspicion. Pir Muhammad Karim Shah al-Azhari also emphasizes the political and military implications of the verse, which establishes a clear code of conduct for times of war, preventing the unjust killing of non-combatants or those who surrender. The commentary argues that we should not question the wisdom of Allah's commands, but accept them as an expression of His perfect knowledge and wisdom, which uncovers the hidden truths of the human heart. Hadith. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught, the first thing that will be judged among people on the Day of Judgment are killings. Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 6864. This hadith beautifully illustrates the core spiritual principle of the verse. It provides a simple yet profound teaching that places the sanctity of life at the very pinnacle of Islamic law and morality. The hadith, in conjunction with the Quranic verse, affirms that true faith is an active state of being that includes a profound reverence for the life of every human being, and especially the life of a fellow believer. This hadith underscores the divine order of justice, where the most fundamental right, the right to life, is the first to be addressed in the final reckoning. Another relevant hadith highlights the direct incident related to this verse. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught, "Did you kill him after he had said there is no God but Allah?" Osama ibn Zayd replied, "He said it only to save himself." The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Did you look into his heart?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, kept on repeating it until Osama wished that he had not embraced Islam before that day. This hadith adds a layer of spiritual depth to the Quranic verse. It teaches that the act of shedding a believer's blood is not just a legal crime but a spiritual transgression that removes one from the very pale of faith. It signifies a spiritual severance from the community and from one's own faith. The hadith provides a clear and powerful teaching that a person who takes a life unjustly has, in a profound spiritual sense, left the protection and mercy of their own religion. This spiritual excommunication is the real punishment, and all the others mentioned in the verse are its natural and inevitable consequences. And with this profound verse, our exploration of Allah's divine wisdom concludes for today. May this spiritual guidance illuminate our hearts and minds, filling them with the light of faith and understanding. And may Allah grant us the wisdom to live by the truths revealed in His sacred book, applying its teachings to every aspect of our lives. May He accept our sincere efforts and forgive our shortcomings, showering His blessings upon us, our families, and our communities. May He guide us on the straight path and grant us a noble end, and may His peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you all.